This is a video that shows the use of the RICOH THETA X camera with some lens guards to protect the 360-degree lenses. The process is that I'm at a shopping mall with a monopod and a monopod base. I'm just going to place the camera at different points, take the picture, and show you guys the output of the picture. If you're curious, this is a Leofoto Ranger LS223C base, a Leofoto Go 125 stick, a RICOH THETA X with $17 Puluz lens guard PC protective stick-on lens guards. Again, the purpose of the video is to show the use of the lens guard in different lighting conditions. As I'm not a professional photographer, this is a simulation of untrained staff that's going to a industrial project like a construction or potentially real estate, maybe for insurance, and taking the pictures. Here's the first 11K HDR shot. As it's in HDR, the walking people will look blurry. The most likely use case is some type of archival of the images to show changes over time, to show changes before and after disaster for insurance purposes, or potentially to show the interior of some industrial projects where there's a lot of dust. I'm trying to show the interior lighting. Maybe that will generate a star effect and you can just get a realistic view of what the actual picture will look like with not too much prep. Here's another scene with slightly different lighting. You can see some of the starring. It's not too bad depending on what your use is. Of course, if you're doing this for artistic purposes, you shouldn't use the lens guard, right? If you want the best possible picture, you have to just use the lens that is. This is for industrial use where they're primarily focused on being able to see signs within a given building, to see the status of a building construction, to see maybe the progress of traffic in a shopping mall. And for these use cases, you're willing to sacrifice some of the quality of the image in exchange for protection of the lens. Again, I'm trying to show the starring of the lights. It is also clearer, right, if you don't have the lens guard, but as far as the clarity and usability, it's quite good. So let's say that you want to zoom in on a sign. It's still, the resolution I think is perfectly readable in this type of lighting conditions. I'm going to show different lighting conditions to give you a realistic view of the pros and cons of using this type of lens guard. That bubble thing is not the normal lens. It's sticking out a fair bit actually. Just walked around the mall looking for different lighting conditions. This particular mall does have some window areas which I'll visit later to show different lighting conditions. Also, there's a difference in lighting between inside the store and outside the store. So we can look at this particular picture, and so the outside is going to of course be darker, inside's much lighter. And the camera does a fairly good job of being able to capture both the lighter areas in the detail as well as the exterior of the outside the shop, which is much dimmer. So it's pretty reasonable job. And some of this is due to the HDR. So this one has more natural lighting coming in from the top. It was raining on this day, so the weather wasn't as bright as it could be. I didn't intentionally search for dimly lit areas. I was trying to find as much light difference as possible. It's just the weather, it was a bit overcast on this particular day I took the shot. However, I think if you're indoor, even in a construction area where there's some natural lighting, some dimly lit areas, some other areas might be bright, the camera's doing quite a good job. So I did go upstairs where it had the most natural lighting from the window, so we can capture both the light that's coming in from the windows. There's a skylight. There's also artificial lighting going on, many different types of lighting levels. You can also see through the windows due to the great HDR of the RICOH THETA X and also the dimly lit area below. These pictures are taken with the default HDR, the default color correction, and the default exposure compensation settings. The RICOH THETA X does have an API. If you are a developer, you could adjust the HDR to your preference. You can also adjust the white balance and the EV compensation. Here's another, what I intended to be a tougher shot for the RICOH THETA X, where I placed it next to a window, and the HDR is doing a pretty fine job of showing both the dimly lit stairwell here as well as the right through the window. So that view is actually going right through a window into the interior of the mall. It's actually quite nice. So unintentionally, it does show the power of the RICOH THETA X there with the HDR. I placed it closer to a natural lighting door and a vending machine, but I guess it could be an industrial machine in this simulation. And it's doing a great job in this type of lighting condition. Realistically, you might get better lighting in dimly light situations with the Z1. This does have a smaller image sensor than the Z1, but when there's adequate light, you can see the 11K resolution is just great.